Well, hey guys, it's Neo, and today I'm going to be doing a Call of Duty commentary about the Department of Homeland Security. And I'm going to be using the M27, which is like the M4, and therefore like what the Department of Homeland Security uses. And what's interesting about the Department of Homeland Security is that it's being run by Democrats, and most of the time Democrats aren't so keen on militarizing and defense and stuff like that. But it's interesting that they're very supportive of the Department of Homeland Security. And I'm going to explain my idea and reasoning of why this would be so. So, let's start off with what the Department of Homeland Security is. The Department of Homeland Security was started in 2002 to protect against terrorism, and it was a direct response from the 9/11 attacks, which I think we're all familiar with. Anyway, this is quite interesting because they just bought 7 billion bullets, and I hope we all know that 7 billion is a large number. That's more than 5 per every head in the United States, and well, getting back to that, I think that's because they're afraid of civil unrest. Look at that guy trying to kill with a smile. Anyway, but I'm afraid that they're, well, I think that they're afraid of civil unrest, and I can easily see why. You have a lot of people with AR-15s, and they are more, conservative than people who are unarmed or have shotguns like Biden said anyway. But you have people that are against Obama that are armed, and DHS is more of a military organization. But why would they want that and not the Department of Defense? Well, my reasoning why is that the Department of Defense is basically ran by conservatives, and they will be conservative, and they will overthrow the president if necessary, whereas the DHS won't. They're Homeland Security, which they're supposed to protect the people, but as of now, I'm assuming they're protecting government. But I would think why is because Obama wants something to help put down a rebellion. They have like 7,000 assault rifles, M4 type stuff like that, so it's nothing amazing. Some people from Russia today said that they thought it was because NATO 556 is the NATO peacekeeping line, but that's what the M4 uses, and I would be surprised if the United States military would be using something other than the AR M4 type system. But the person who runs the Department of Homeland Security is relatively liberal, and that's another reason why. And the people in the Department of Defense will be more supportive of the GOP and less, whereas the Department of Homeland Security will be more supportive of Obama's agenda. Now let's get into Cuba and stuff like that. Cuba, Nazi Germany, and all these countries started off first by regulating guns, then regulating welfare, healthcare, stuff like that, and getting the people dependent on the government, and so they had nothing to do but to listen to the government. And my biggest concern is that the United States is heading towards this direction, and although we have the Second Amendment, these liberals are not going to stop at appealing the Second Amendment. So, just saying, you might want to keep your backs open, or watch your backs. So the idea of the Department of Homeland Security, I think, is to protect Obama. I think I'm rumbling on, but just the next thing is that he said that the Department of Homeland Security said that their threats are mainly Christians, right-wing people, and that really startles me because I'm a Christian. I take the Bible seriously. I believe the country was founded on biblical principles, and these liberals obviously don't. So the liberals think that they don't want anybody to be Christian and all that stuff, which is apparent. And my biggest problem is that I think that it's not that I'm declaring war on them, but they're declaring war on me because they aren't attacking me. I mean, I'm not attacking them, and they're arming up and stockpiling all this stuff, and it concerns me. And I think it's for a good reason that it should concern anybody who's not a one-brain lefter, who's extremely liberal. Back to the gameplay. I think the enemy has a lodestar. Hate those things. Anyway, so I have to camp it out. Oh, I was up against a pretty good team, and Steve banging them anyway. I was up against a pretty good team, and I was using a gun that I didn't like so good, so that's probably why I'm not doing so great. Anyway, but why would the liberals think that we're going to attack them? Well, think about it. I mean, at first it doesn't make much sense, but after you think about it for a while, it starts making sense. Anyway, the liberals think that we are going to defend our freedoms at any cost. And they're afraid that we're seeing the trend that first they take away the guns, they take your freedom of speech, they make you dependent on them, and before you know it, you are no longer living in a democratic republic, you're living in a communist country. So by calling us Christians a threat to them and the government really deeply concerns me, and I'm afraid that us Christians will have to act out against the government, not in an attack that they're afraid of, but in self-defense. I'm planning on adding credit or stuff down in the description. Sources where I got the information from down in the description. Sorry about the bad gameplay. I just decided, M27 is really an HK416, and an HK416 is a variant of the M4. So in a long line, this is really just an M4, but I think they got another lodestar, so I'm camping it out up here. Picked up a Chinese gun. I hope you know it takes a long while for me to pick up a Chinese gun. That's pretty low. Anyway, but hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you understand why I think that our government is no longer made for we the people, but for the government, and I'm afraid it will quickly turn into an oligarchy or something terrible like that. This is frustrating. To be in a country that used to be the greatest country